In 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the moon. Their faces filled the newspapers, their names were etched into history, and the entire world celebrated the achievement. But there was a third man on that mission. Michael Collins stayed behind in the command module, orbiting alone in the dark. His job was to monitor the complex instruments keeping the mission alive. If he made a mistake, or if his systems failed for even a second, Armstrong and Aldrin wouldn't make it home. You can see a very similar dynamic playing out right now in your car's dashboard. We are captivated by the sleek, glowing screens of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. They get all the attention. But running entirely in the background, without a flashy interface, is another operating system entirely. It controls the brakes, the airbags, and the critical safety features. If that invisible system crashes, the consequences are fatal. And the software handling that immense responsibility belongs to BlackBerry, a company most people assume went completely out of business over a decade ago. Back in 2009, BlackBerry held over 50% of the US smartphone market. They sold 85 million devices globally. Even President Barack Obama insisted on keeping his when he entered the White House, forcing national security teams to make special accommodations. The cracks began to form 2 years earlier, when Steve Jobs stood on a stage and introduced a device with a full touchscreen and no physical keyboard. BlackBerry's leadership laughed it off. They believed serious professionals would always demand tactical, physical buttons and long battery life over a smooth glass screen. What they missed was a psychological shift. Before 2007, a phone was a utility, a tool for checking emails and making calls. After 2007, it became a window to the internet and an extension of a person's identity. BlackBerry kept selling a tool to a market that suddenly wanted a reflection of themselves. By the time they realized the error, it was too late. In a desperate bid to catch up, they held a massive launch event in 2013 for the touchscreen BlackBerry 10. The market rejected it entirely. The company's stock dropped 20% in a matter of hours, and financial analysts quickly wrote the company's obituary. On paper, the phone maker was dead, but a completely unnoticed acquisition they had made 2 years prior was already setting the stage for their quiet survival. In 2011, BlackBerry spent $200 million to buy a small Canadian software firm called QNX. At the time, industry watchers brushed it off as a confused, desperate move by a failing giant. QNX was founded in the early 1980s by 2 students at the University of Waterloo. While working on a class project, they noticed a structural weakness in how almost all commercial software was built. Most traditional software relies on a monolithic architecture. Dozens of applications share a single processing brain. The danger is entanglement. If one minor application encounters an error, it drags everything down. The crash ripples until the entire machine freezes up. If your personal laptop freezes, you simply restart it. But if the computer controlling a factory floor, a nuclear reactor, or a hospital ventilator locks up, the cost is measured in human lives. To solve this, QNX built a microkernel architecture. Instead of one central hub, they divided the system into strictly isolated rooms. When a task fails, the system seals that room off. It restarts the process in isolation, while every other part operates without interruption. That level of stability became a requirement for NASA following the 2003 Space Shuttle Columbia disaster. The agency decreed that no future shuttle would return to Earth without a full in-orbit inspection, using a highly precise array of cameras and lasers. The software processing those images had to operate perfectly in the harsh vacuum of space, where a blue screen of death simply wasn't an option. NASA reviewed the available technology and ultimately chose QNX. Earning NASA's trust proved a crucial point to the tech industry. If this architecture could reliably manage critical operations in low Earth orbit, it could act as the digital bedrock for any high-stakes environment down on the ground. This brings us back to BlackBerry. By 2011, their leadership knew the fight against Apple and Google for the consumer's pocket was already lost. So they bought QNX to pivot entirely away from the flashy, identity-driven consumer market and into the invisible, fail-proof industrial sector. Today, that software is actively powering the International Space Station and keeping vital orbital infrastructure functioning smoothly above our heads. It is directly installed in massive MRI machines in hospitals around the globe, ensuring that complex medical imaging operates flawlessly. Surgeons rely on it to drive multi-armed robotic systems, where a microsecond of lag or a software glitch could result in a lethal error. But its most massive deployment is right in your driveway. QNX software currently operates the advanced driver assistance and safety systems inside hundreds of millions of modern vehicles. When your automatic brakes trigger to prevent a collision, it is that isolated microkernel architecture executing the command. We watched the phone company fade away because we stared at the screens in our hands. But to survive, BlackBerry simply stepped out from the glare of the spotlight. They abandoned the fight for our attention and chose instead to become the invisible, fail-safe foundation that keeps the modern world turning. You likely think of a car as a machine made of steel, gas, and moving parts. But a modern vehicle is a computer on wheels, relying on upwards of 80 distinct electronic control units functioning simultaneously just to get you down the road. From the driver's seat, your entire experience centers on a massive touchscreen. You pull up maps and connect your music, which makes it easy to assume that tech giants like Apple and Google are the ones running the entire vehicle. But there is a massive flaw in that assumption. If the software on your smartphone freezes, you simply restart the device. If the operating system managing your car crashes while you're traveling at highway speeds, the result is often fatal. Because the stakes are so high, automotive engineers split a vehicle's software into two entirely different worlds. The top layer handles the entertainment, media, navigation, and calls. But beneath that sits an invisible infrastructure layer that actively controls the brakes, the steering, and the airbags. Apple and Google only have jurisdiction over that first superficial world. They handle the music and the maps. That critical second layer, the infrastructure keeping you alive, is actually dominated by a company most people assume disappeared over a decade ago. It's run by BlackBerry. In 2013, BlackBerry CEO John Chen made a harsh calculation. The consumer smartphone war was over, and they had lost. The company shifted its focus entirely to industrial software, leveraging an operating system they had acquired a few years earlier called QNX. To legally control the mechanical components of a vehicle, an operating system must pass ISO 26262. This is the highest safety certification on Earth, requiring a literal zero margin for error in life-threatening scenarios. The operating systems powering your phone are incredibly complex, but they were never engineered to guarantee flawless, real-time mechanical integration. Earning this level of certification requires decades of specialized testing and deep industry trust. You cannot simply buy your way into the foundation of a 2-ton vehicle. The world's largest tech and automotive giants weren't eager to surrender control of their vehicle's foundations to a third party. Many believed they could replicate BlackBerry's work and keep the entire ecosystem for themselves. Take Tesla. Elon Musk operates on a philosophy of strict vertical integration. If a piece of technology goes into a Tesla, he wants his company to be the one that built it. So rather than licensing QNX, Tesla engineered its own custom Linux-based system from scratch. The cost of that independence is software instability. Using an architecture not inherently designed for life-critical functions led to frequent system reboots while driving, eventually triggering an official recall of 135,000 vehicles because the main screens kept going black. Over in Germany, Volkswagen decided they needed to own their software ecosystem too, launching a massive internal project called CARIAD. The initiative resulted in catastrophic production delays that stalled entirely new model lines. After burning through billions of euros with very little to show for it, Volkswagen's board forced their CEO, Herbert Diess, out of the company. But the ultimate reality check came from Apple. They launched Project Titan, a 10-year initiative with an unlimited budget aimed at building the perfect autonomous vehicle software. They spent roughly $10 billion and even poached top engineers directly from QNX. Yet in February 2024, Apple canceled the entire project. Their engineers realized that building an operating system from the ground up that absolutely never fails was much harder than they imagined. If the most valuable corporation on the planet spends a decade and $10 billion and still cannot replicate BlackBerry's work, the rest of the industry has little choice but to surrender to the QNX architecture. For Apple CarPlay and Android Auto to even function inside a vehicle, they must run directly on top of BlackBerry's QNX. BlackBerry acts as the gatekeeper. Today, QNX is actively running inside 275 million vehicles worldwide, doubling its presence in just 6 years. It powers 24 of the top 25 electric vehicle manufacturers. Even major Chinese automakers, despite the ongoing tech war with the West, rely on QNX for their advanced self-driving systems. The business model is brilliant in its simplicity. BlackBerry doesn't build heavy metal parts. They simply collect a software licensing fee of around $3 to $5 for every single car that rolls off in an assembly line. This arrangement generates an 84% profit margin and has built up nearly $1 billion in guaranteed backlog revenue. They have built a fortune without ever having to sell directly to a consumer again. By 2030, the market for entirely software-defined vehicles is projected to cross $1.2 trillion. How did a company that lost the total war for the consumer's pocket end up cornering the vital layer of the entire global transport industry? It is very much like the story of Michael Collins, the third astronaut on the historic Apollo 11 mission. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin receive all the fame. They are the ones the public actually sees walking on the surface, much like the sleek interfaces provided by Apple and Google. But Collins stayed in orbit, operating the critical life support command module. If his machinery failed, the men on the surface would never survive the trip home. BlackBerry retreated from the public eye to secure the structural core of the modern world. They realized that ultimate power is not found in the brand name on a consumer's device, but in the invisible, life-critical systems that the rest of the entire industry is forced to build upon.